back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, I'm going to go over a story, guys, that is a little different. This story is actually about a guy who had posted this on Reddit, like all the stories that are on here. However, because he was getting a lot of crap from people, and one of my guys from over here saw this, he introduced him to my channel, and the guy decided to take this story down from Reddit and submit the story here so you can get a better perspective from a different audience here. Anyhow, this is about a guy. He is around 50 years old, I believe, and he's been for the last 25 years married to a gal who he thought truly was his soulmate. We've heard that before. And lo and behold, his soulmate one day cryingly confessed that 8 years prior she was doing her coworker. And you'll find out more of her reasons why down the road. I'm not going to reveal it. And as you can imagine, she's out of the house. He booted her out. And he's now debating how to handle this whole situation and her and where to go, blah, 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 blah. And is looking for help and counsel. But you're also going to see in the story, guys, this guy's had a lot of tragedy in his life recently. And I'm not going to say what, but you'll find out in real time. So this guy's going through a lot of hardships. So I'm covering this story on here, even though he had posted on Reddit and got some feedback. Then hopefully you guys can help him out. Because this guy's had a whole whirlwind. I will say that he was married once and got cheated on. And now here he is 25 years later. And I thought it'd be a good one to show you guys that you could think you're in the most perfect marriage ever and then find this out. And, you know, when it comes to women, and here's a little hint here, the craving for attention and validation, to feeling like they still got it, they're still wanted, they're still desirable, really goes to a lot of their heads and things happen. And this is why you got to be very, very careful and always have your eyes peeled. So, and it's a longer story, but hopefully we can help this guy out. And you're going to see the direction how this whole thing goes. It says, "Hello SSM. A user/subscriber who saw this post on Reddit asked me to send this to you instead of keeping it on there. It is extremely lengthy, and several updates have occurred throughout this ordeal. He said your community would be much more helpful than anything I can get over there. It is almost over, but he said my story reached him, so I'm giving it to you and your viewers. Thank you. I've been watching a few of your videos here and there and appreciate your work. This has been cut and pasted from Reddit and has now been deleted." So yeah, guys, definitely you're going to get better support over here than you are over in Reddit. The Redditors, so many of them are freaking nuts. They're wackos, they're trolls, and generally don't support guys as much as they obviously are going to over here. So guys, since obviously this is from Reddit, this is why I'm doing this over on the They Did What channel. I tied the knot shortly after high school. Smack! Why? What was the rush? And let's just say, if a marriage was a collegiate course, it would be Fuck Up 101. It was a masterclass of what not to do, featuring every red flag in the book. Well, at least you can admit it. I was fresh-faced and barely off on my life journey, thinking I'd hit the jackpot. I assumed I'd accomplished what my parents did, that being the poster couple for marital bliss. I was so naive, always giving the benefit of the doubt. Well, bro, so many of us were like you. Meanwhile, my then wife, fresh from escaping her parental fortress of solitude, went batshit crazy, deciding that living life to the fullest didn't include me in the picture. Translation, she wanted to ride the carousel. She wanted to be a party girl, that type of thing. Have her hoe phase, whatever they want to call it nowadays. So before I knew it, I was Mr. Mom with our toddler while she was trapped underneath a few individuals, making up for lost time. After finally catching her in the act, I filed for a divorce and braced for the impact. Well, I'm sorry that happened, dude, but that's people marry super young. That's usually what you can expect. But you're a survivor, and you got a daughter out of this. Divorcing in 1997 in the heart of the Bible Belt was not favorable towards the husband back then. What followed was straight out of a horror movie. Oh, I can imagine. I paid my attorney $5,000 to watch her take everything from my guitars and video games. She even claimed keepsakes from a departed relative, and the judge seemed happy to grant her every wish. What is she going to do with your guitar and video games and the family heirlooms and stuff like that? I'll tell you what she's going to do. If it was 1997, she's probably going on eBay when it was starting out, or she's up on at a pawn shop. Not only did I bid farewell to everything I owned, but my time with my son got slashed to a mere Wednesday afternoon and alternating weekends. This is why guys need to know this type of information, or they won't be quick to rush into marriages and all that type of thing, things that can happen to them. My faith in women was broken. I went on a few dates here and there, but mostly it kept to casual encounters and dinners. I never let anyone get too close. But in early 1999, in a friend's birthday party, I met a woman whose marriage had crashed harder than mine. She had a stillbirth 6 months into her pregnancy, and her husband dared to bring his girlfriend to the funeral. What a scumbag. She was heartbroken, to say the least, to learn about her husband's affair and the end of her marriage on the day they laid her daughter to rest. We sat on the couch that night, swapping tales of romantic ruin. She was clever, and to me, that's an instant connection. It's rare for me to find someone who makes me laugh instead of vice versa. As I headed home, I couldn't shake her from my thoughts, kicking myself for not asking for her phone number. Well, I know you were single then, but dude, she was recently divorced and going through losing the child to the stillbirth, okay? You know, there's no rush for her or you, frankly. The next day, my phone rang and it was her. She got my phone number from someone we both knew and asked, would you like to get some food sometime? I said, now sounds great. So I drove to her grandma's house and off we went on what turned out to be what I consider the perfect date. Now I get it. We're both lonely and had our hearts broken, but trust me, this was no spark. It was an inferno. And believe it or not, we have been inseparable since that day. We have not spent one night apart. That was 25 years ago, with us marrying a year after our meeting. Go ahead and facepalm, I know how it sounds, but it's hard to put the connection between us into words. Even I'm still shaking my head in disbelief. You got married a year after you met. Smack! Didn't you learn from the first marriage, my man? Why'd you have to get married? After you were just destroyed in the first marriage by the courts. Remember your guitar, your video games, the family heirlooms? Why'd you have to get married? Why couldn't you just been with her for a while? You know? I know. Our families adored the two of us together. I was certain I had found my soulmate. If you believe in that, and I think that she felt the same. We enjoyed each other's company, and our lives meshed perfectly. As with life, however, it finds those moments of bliss to take a giant shit on you. In 2006, I began feeling ill. Eating resulted in violent illnesses, which I initially thought was a virus. But after a week of no improvement, it was clear there was something else wrong. I was admitted to a local hospital and underwent numerous tests. When I was first admitted, I weighed 222 pounds at a height of 6'2". Within a year, I dropped to 146 pounds, and my condition dumbfounded the doctors. Holy crap, man, 6'2", 146? You were a beanpole. My health was deteriorating rapidly. Throughout the ordeal, she never left my side, her hand in mine, begging me not to leave her. Well, that's something. You know, the old in sickness and in health, that's a good thing. In late 2007, a last-ditch effort was sent me to the Cleveland Clinic, where a young doctor rushed me into surgery. When I woke 3 hours later, she was there, hand in mine, with a smile. It was a success. I was cured. Well, what the heck was wrong with you, man? Well, I'll spare you the details. It involved my colon. Okay. Finally, I could eat and move without agony. My life resumed, and we were happy again. The following year, she received a lucrative job offer in her field, earning more than I did. That didn't bother me at all. She worked hard, and she earned it. Well, that's great. She got a great offer. That's great that she's having success, and she took it. But as you guys are well aware, and a lot of people don't like me talking about this, it doesn't always go well when the woman is out earning the man. Remember his previous marriage where she was making more money and he was the stay-at-home dad? And she's making a lot more money. A lot of times then women, whether they realize it or not, they start to resent their guy because he's in the traditional feminine role, either making less money or the stay-at-home dad, and she's in the traditional masculine role, bringing in all the money. Or sometimes they think, well, wait a second here. I'm not with a catch anymore because I'm making more money. Sounds crazy, but it happens and things go to hell in a handbasket. I'm not saying every situation is like this, but I covered too many stories where this happened, and you guys know what I'm talking about here. After her miscarriage, my wife was unable to conceive. We've been trying since 2000 and eventually came to terms with the fact that it might not happen. In 2010, we got a call from the state of Minnesota about a 2-year-old girl who'd been taken from her mother due to drug-related charges. They asked if we would consider adopting her because the mother had requested she be placed with family members before her parental rights were terminated. So I guess obviously you were looking into adopting. It's not like they just called you up one day, but you were obviously looking into adopting. My wife and I drove for 30 hours to meet her, and after a few months, we adopted her and welcomed her into our home. Our daughter faced social challenges and had endured abuse, leading the two of us to decide that one of us needed to be at home with her. As mentioned, my wife earns significantly more money than me, so it made sense for me to be the one to step in that role. I decided each day to supporting our daughter's mental health. Well, that's very commendable of you. You're giving up on your job. I mean, most people would be happy to give up their jobs, but let's just say it was something you like, your career, and being the stay-at-home dad like you were initially. And that sounds all great, fine and dandy on paper. The feminists love to push that idea, but problems arise when this happens. While I played my part, I can't claim all the credit for this. Her preschool, kindergarten, and therapists were instrumental in her learning to socialize and trust once again. Eventually, I took up freelance journalism, so I was at home when our little one finished her school day. Well, sir, that's great that you're doing this for your girl and making these sacrifices, and I'm glad you found something you could do at home. That's awesome. You're a good guy, you really. But just, we all know from these stories, or maybe you're learning now, it's just a problem when the wife makes more money and the guy's at home. Lots of BS happens. Our evenings were family time, and we took small trips on the weekends. It was 2017 that my wife returned from work one evening, deeply shaken by what she told me was a workplace argument. Despite my attempts to console her, she remained inconsolable. She was declaring her intent to find a new job. She never had any issues before, so I was stunned. For days, she was a mess and withdrawn. When I pressured for details, she'd say, "It would only upset you, let me deal with it." If it's upsetting you that bad, as your husband and father to our child here, I deserve to know what's going on here. True to her word, she left for a new company within a week, accepting a 15% reduction in pay. I should have questioned it then, but she never gave me cause for concern. No, it's one thing if she wants to move jobs, but something's going on and now she's making less. Yeah, you need to know. Once she began her new role, life returned to normal, and our family moved happily forward. In 2022, I published my first novel with an independent publisher, fulfilling a lifelong dream. Bro, that's awesome. I could sense the pride emulating from both my wife and my daughter. I had achieved this milestone before my 50th birthday, and I couldn't wait to start my second book. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this is where my world breaks. In 2023, as I'm finishing up my new novel, my 27-year-old son from my first marriage died suddenly of a heart attack. He had an underlying condition that none of us knew about. Oh my God. I am so sorry, sir. I want everyone to understand that when you say, "I couldn't imagine my child dying," you truly cannot. There's no pain quite like it. My wife and daughter, who also felt his loss deeply, did their best to support me. But there's no way to deal with such a tragedy. In the months following his death, I immersed myself in my work, striving to complete my second book for him. That's how a lot of people deal with grief. They'll put themselves into something, and sometimes that something's not very good. That something can be alcohol or drugs, but in your case, your purpose with the book, and that's great. On the day I finished it in January, my father passed away after a long battle. Dad had been ill for a long time. You think you can prepare yourself for that, but that's a lie you tell yourself. The loss was hard, and my daughter was instrumental in getting me back on my feet. Man, so your son, then your dad. My second book was released in February, and I tried to smile as I had my release party. At the beginning of April, I started feeling better, writing outlines for my third novel, and doing the same thing I've done always with my wife and my daughter. My wife and I have a Wednesday tradition where she picks a random recipe she finds online, and we cook it together. On April 3rd, while making a crock-pot chicken tacos, I thanked her for everything. She asked why, and I thanked her for everything she's done to get me through this tough time. Yeah. I shared a lot of pent-up emotions, telling her I couldn't have managed without her. She started crying, then weeping, and soon she was sobbing uncontrollably. Yeah, you're like, okay, honey, I'm thanking you, but what's going on here? I tried to comfort her with a hug, but she pushed me away. Okay. I apologized, not realizing my words would stir such a reaction. Don't know. What are you apologizing for? You didn't do anything wrong. Suddenly she confesses her Infidelity. I laughed, mistaking it for a joke. She grabs my shoulders and then details how back in 2017, a 28-year-old at her former job started flirting with her, and she reciprocated. Is this the same job that she suddenly and abruptly had to leave, that she couldn't tell you why, and that she took a 15% cut in pay to get out as humanly possible, and neglected to mention that to you? Now, guys, women can cheat for far many other reasons. It's simply that they make more money and you're a stay-at-home dad, but I've seen patterns here, and this happened to him before. And remember, this is the woman he said was just, there wasn't a spark in the beginning, it was an inferno, and soulmates and all that. Well, guess what? Guess not so much. She believed it was innocent, yet it persisted, because she let it persist. Well, like my wife has always feared growing old, her birthdays were days she dreaded every year. She admitted that the attention from a younger man was exhilarating. It's always about attention and validation, guys. She told me that turning 40 had sent her into a tailspin, and she couldn't talk to me about it because I would have just shrugged it off. So already twisting it around to blame him. I'm getting older, and just, I couldn't talk to you about it, and therefore, you can read between the lines to justify her affair. Loving the attention and validation. It never stops. He invited her to leave work early and come to his place one day. She couldn't understand why she chose to do so. Maybe it was the thrill. She said she didn't know, but she went and ended up sleeping with him. Well, we're done, bitch. And oh, by the way, since you make a lot more money than me, guess what? You're paying out. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. She knew exactly what she was doing. We all know this. What a load of crap. When these adults say that they don't know why they did what they did, it's like a little fucking 4-year-old. You catch a kid doing something and you're like, why'd you do that? I don't know. Well, they're 4 years old, so okay, fine. We can give them a tad bit of a pass. But if it's a 40-year-old woman saying, I don't know why I did this, bullshit. Afterwards, she felt terrible, glaring at her keychain in his driveway because it had a photo of me holding our daughter. She drove home, and that's when she lied about having a workplace argument. She never wanted to return there. It's why she suddenly went somewhere else. She then told me she wanted to tell me, but didn't have the fortitude to do it. No, she didn't want to get caught. She didn't want to ruin her marriage, so she's just going to bury it underneath the rug. But guys, things always come out. Now, according to his story here, she confessed to him. That's certainly better than him finding evidence in some capacity, but still, it's been 6 or 7 fucking years. I remained silent, just wide-eyed and open-mouthed. She apologized, saying she couldn't live with it any longer. I just shook my head, unable to speak a single word. Yeah, and your silence was probably making her crazy. She offered to leave if that's what I wanted, to attend counseling, or even beg for my forgiveness. Instead, I picked up my AirPods and phone and walked out. I wandered from 6 in the evening until about 11 o'clock that night. When I returned, she was on the love seat, asking if I needed to talk. I shook my head again, went to the office, where I had the couch, and slept there. Your silence and walking away probably was making her crazy, because they want the drama. Women cannot take uncertainty. The next day, after our daughter left for school, she asked if I had anything to say. I said yes. I questioned why she brought this up after the worst year of my life. Why couldn't she have kept it to herself until at least I could somewhat deal with something of this magnitude? Anyway, his son died. His 27-year-old son died. Then his dad died. Now, it was obviously more predictable that his father would die, given the father's age and the illness. But still, now this. She just looked away. I scoffed and told her to go to work and to try not to fuck anybody during her lunch break. It's like the scene in Clerks when Dante says to Veronica, well, try not to suck any dick on your way through the parking lot here. It kind of reminds me of that. That would have been on April 4th. Those were the last words I said to her until last night. She had attempted to talk to me several times, but I would just walk past her into my office, trying to focus on my upcoming science fiction comedy book. Writing something funny is challenging when the thought of your spouse rolling around with another man stuck in her consumes your thoughts. A week ago, my daughter asked in the car if everything was okay, and I lied to her, which made me feel sick. Then last night, my wife came to the office door and asked, are we getting a divorce? I looked at her and replied, looks like it. and she started crying and closed the door. You're so nonchalant. Looks like it. Ah! I haven't consulted an attorney as of yet, and the thought of divorce hadn't crossed my mind until she mentioned it. Now that, gentlemen, is going to be the end of part 1 here. I know you all want to hear part 2 right away and you're yelling at me, but this is too long to be in one freaking video here. So this is where I'm going to cut things off. But we're going to continue on, and you're going to see the direction this whole thing goes. And I thought, again, remember, how in the beginning he said soulmates and all those other things. So see you soon.